Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. You can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh, or you can catch us anywhere you get your podcast from. I'm your host, Nick Belsky, joined as always by Nick Horwat, and we got a fantastic show for you guys today. First and foremost, the kids, Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen, are the talk of the town. We will break down their first game and what we thought of their performances against the Ottawa Senators. And then there is one Penguins forward that's on the shelf, done for the season following surgery. We'll talk a little bit about his future with the organization, and we'll close things out with the Pittsburgh Penguins handing out their team awards. There was one obvious name that was the recipient, and then there was one surprising name that received an award yesterday afternoon. We'll talk about all of that and more on the Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Let's kick things off with the biggest storyline revolving around the Penguins, and probably the biggest storyline for the remainder of the season, which is these kids. Surprised everybody on Friday, myself included, whenever the Penguins called up Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen in one full swing. Sunday, they make their NHL, well, I would say one player makes their NHL debuts. Let me get this correctly. McGroarty had 3 games played in October. He has his first game since then, and it just so happened to be on his 21st birthday. He played with Sidney Crosby on the Penguins' top line, registered 3 shots on goal, 4 hits, and 16 minutes and 57 seconds of ice time. Meanwhile, Ville Koivunen, who did make his NHL debut, let me make sure I get it all correct, played on the second line with Rutger at center. Koivunen finished the game with 2 shots on goal and 17 minutes and 28 seconds of ice time. Horwat, what did you think of the kids' performance against the Ottawa Senators?
It was a good get your feet wet game, I think, because it's not like they're playing important games. I mean, it's important to everyone still. There's still technically that very, very outside chance that a playoff run can happen, however, extremely unlikely. But it's the get your feet wet game, especially for Koivunen in his first NHL game, getting that opportunity at this juncture of the season, at this stage where he's proven to be worthy of this chance. Next season could be very different for a lot of these prospects. It could be more than just these two being NHL regulars at some point. It's a good opportunity for them to get in, get that first game under your belt, get some good ice time under your belt too. I mean, good power play time for both of them, good opportunities, couple shots on goal for each. Again, tough to really gauge a lot in terms of how they're going to look in the future, considering it was a 1-0 game that went to overtime. But at the end of the day, it's still, they didn't look out of place. They didn't look totally off kilter. They kind of came in with a bit more energy than a lot of the Penguins have in recent games, which is not saying much, but they came in with the energy. They came in with a shuffled lineup, essentially. I mean, Rutger back at center is all you need to see to know that, well, the Penguins are struggling. Who knows how the lineup looks when Evgeni Malkin comes back and how all that filters out. But for now, I'd say give these two the runway for the rest of the season. The Penguins don't have much left to lose. Let them just stay in. Let them cook with what they have. Let's get them some NHL points next. Let's see how they can perform in these later games and some rivalry games. For what it's worth, sure, the Penguins aren't fighting for much, but I mean, they'll still play the Capitals in the last game of the season. They'll still have some important games against the Islanders, and just for terms of rivalry games and the higher intensity games that come no matter what time of the season or no matter the situation, I'd like to see those two stay in the lineup and build on what they've already started.
Yeah, something tells me that they're going to. I think it was Josh Yohe of The Athletic last week that said they're up here for the remainder of the season, then they will rejoin the Wilkes-Barre Penguins once the Penguins' NHL season comes to an end. But I liked a lot of what I saw between the two of them. And when it comes to letting them play, I think the biggest thing is letting them play similar ice time. Like, even if Evgeni Malkin comes back, these guys should be playing 15-plus minutes a night. That's the one way to truly get your feet wet with only 8 games of runway here. But to get a little bit more into the weeds about each of them, Ville Koivunen is one guy that, McGroarty's game has been kind of dissected and picked apart his entire life really. He was a first-round draft pick that was on the United States national development team as a captain. So everybody has kind of looked at McGroarty's game, knows where his shortcomings are, and knows what to look for when he gets out there on the ice. And I think a lot of Penguins fans were no different on Sunday. They almost knew a little bit of what to expect from Rutger McGroarty, an elevated version of what you saw in those first 3 games back in October. But Ville Koivunen is somebody who, as far as the North American game is concerned, you had a lot of questions of, will his success in Liga be able to translate whenever he crosses over to North America? And it has 100%. I mean, yes, Sunday, you don't want to get over your skis a little too much. You don't want to get overexcited, but there were a lot of positives to take away from Ville Koivunen. And the one big thing for me was his speed and his forechecking, because from the first shift, that was evident. Now, part of that might be adrenaline, first NHL shift ever. The legs are going to be pumping, but that's something that he's done all season long. And I think is something that if he can maintain past that adrenaline rush of the first couple of weeks in the show, then I think that could be a huge, huge positive for the Penguins forward lineup. Like I said, the speed at which he was able to get onto the defenseman of the Ottawa Senators was impressive. The forechecking was impressive, especially because it's not that big of a guy, right? He's not going to be pushing people off pucks, especially a team that has as much body, as much mass as the Ottawa Senators do. So I thought he acclimated himself really well. And again, for both of these guys, they just didn't look out of place. And that's what you're looking for in these games, is do they look like they belong at this level? And yeah, there were a couple plays, more so McGroarty than Koivunen, where it's like, okay, maybe a step too slow, maybe a second where he held on to the puck a little bit too much. I think the one that stood out the most is there was a play where I don't remember who was on the left half wall, but he dished it to McGroarty, who was right in the rail, right in the center of the ice, and he dusted the puck off first before he shot it, and it was a glove save by Anton Forsberg. Now, in the AHL, you might have still been able to blow it past a goaltender, but you give that split second to an NHL goaltender, he's going to get in position, and it's just going to be easier for him. So that's the type of stuff that, again, is only going to improve with time once you get used to the speed of the game. But I was impressed with everything, and I think there were a lot of aspects in which you look at it and you say, this could be a very successful player at the NHL level. I'm not saying these guys are, all of a sudden off to superstardom, but I think they could be, as you mentioned, everyday NHLers that make an impact to a good team.
Absolutely. They're going to have a chance. And it's good to hear they're going to have that runway going down the rest of the season. I was wrong about the Islanders. I'm so used to the Penguins playing the Islanders at the end of the season, by the way.
Always.
That I just assumed there was at least one Islanders game left. There's not. There's 2 against the Chicago Blackhawks. That's a heck of a chance to really show your worth at the NHL level against a team that has had nothing to fight for all season, except for Connor Bedard trying his darndest, and good for him. But it's not an easy schedule for the Penguins either way. I mean, you have the Blues next, who are the hottest team in the NHL right now, with a 9-game winning streak that could be 10 by the time the Penguins get there on Thursday. Dallas, who already clinched the playoff spot, 2 against Chicago. Again, good opportunity for the kids especially. And then it's Jersey, Boston, Washington, which are no slouches in their own right. It's going to be tough contests for the Penguins, but also those rookies looking to those youngsters looking to make noise for themselves. I'm interested to see what they can do against both these teams, against all these teams, against both the good fighting teams for playoff positioning like the Blues, and for teams like the Blackhawks are just dead in the water. Curious to see how those mentalities not necessarily change, but how the team and how these 2 youngsters can adapt almost to, cool, we're in the NHL, here's an extremely tough test right away against St. Louis, suddenly to, well, this looks like one of the teams we played in Hartford.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, things you want to see out of them, you want to see that first career point, you want to see that first career goal, but I'm interested to see how many points and goals Ville Koivunen specifically racks up here in the last couple of weeks of the season, because this is a kid that has quickly found out how to score at almost every single level that he's gone to, right? He led all rookies in his rookie year in Liga back in 2020 in scoring. And then last year he had a monster number, or he put up monster numbers at the age of 20, one of the best 20-year-old seasons in Liga history. And now this year, he's second most points of any rookie in the American Hockey League. So not only does he quickly acclimate and play well, but he quickly acclimates and starts scoring. So I'm wondering, again, very short run here. Only 8 games in total. One of them is already gone. I'm interested to see if not only he can get that first, but if he can start showing signs of what he's shown in Finnish Liga, what he's shown at the AHL level of, hey, not only do I come in, get my feet wet, but I come in and I find the score sheet pretty often. And if he can do that over the last 8 games, I think that gives you a heck of a lot of confidence. One, in him going back down and leading the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins to a hopefully very long and very fruitful run in the Calder Cup playoffs. But 2, being able to come in and make a serious push for a middle 6 spot, I think would be the expected. But also, you never know what the team's going to be constructed like come training camp. So maybe he pushes for a top 6 role. Again, that's getting out ahead of ourselves, but that's what I want to see out of Koivunen. If he can continue to do what he's done his entire career, which is quickly acclimate himself and quickly start to find the score sheet, because he's done it at every other stop.
For sure. You want to make a prediction on that? Because I was sitting here looking at the schedule, looking at the teams ahead. I could see a 3-2-5. I could see 3 goals, 2 assists, and 5 total to finish out these last 7. I know the one's already gone. He kind of got his feet wet with that acclimation game. Again, tough to judge the 1-0 into overtime, letting Sidney Crosby bury the winner. But by all means, I could see 3 goals. Maybe he gets 1 a night against the Blackhawks. Who knows? Maybe he squeezes out another one against St. Louis, because maybe they're riding high and they need to lose at some point, don't they? Mm-hmm. I could see 5 points split through 3 goals at some point down the line here for Koivunen specifically. I'm not going to give you a McGroarty prediction because I didn't think of that one. Mm-hmm. But for Koivunen specifically, I could see at least 5 points coming up in the next 8 games. And I think that might even be a high expectation.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think that's a high expectation, but it's one that is in the realm of possibility because of this guy's track record. So I like it. Mm-hmm. I like it. I don't know if I would predict 3-2-5. I'd say maybe 2 goals, 1 assist in his 8-game stint here. And I understand that people want that to be a little bit more dramatic. But again, remember, this is a team that is playing for very little at this stage of the season. And this is a kid who has to get used to, the speed of the game a little bit. And also, if what we saw Sunday persists, these guys don't have the puck on their stick very long, right? So they're not quite in the setup man mentality at this point. They're in the, let me make the right play here. Let me get the puck to the right place. And if it's on my stick, I'm going to shoot it. So I think if anything, you're going to see these kids score more goals than put up assists. But at the same time, if you're on the power play 1, secondary assists are not that, especially for a team that's in the top 15 on the power play. Secondary assists can be had, I wouldn't say easily, but not as difficult as it may have been last year. But I'm excited for both of these guys, and I think this is exactly what everybody wanted the Penguins to do, is not only bring these kids up to give them a chance, but really give them a chance. First line, second line, 16 minutes a game, 17 minutes a game. I know the Sully hates the kids contingency is going to be real upset about all this, but at the same time, the kids are getting an opportunity. And I thought after 1 game, so far, so good. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. Jesus, such a long way away, but we'll see what happens on Thursday in their second performance against the St. Louis Blues. We did get a little bit of news this week that is unfortunate for one Penguins forward. Boko Imama had successful surgery to repair an injury to his bicep. He's expected now to miss 4 to 6 months, according to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which means his return at the latest would be the first week of October, aka the end of training camp and the beginning of the 2025-26 NHL season. Imama had 1 goal in 16 games at the NHL level this season, 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists in 24 games for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. My question out of all of this is, would you bring Imama back next season, because he is due for a new contract in the summer, but would you bring him back despite the injury to his bicep?
I think so. I mean, you could still get him. We had this discussion before about bringing him back, and that was before the injury. And I feel like what I said then will probably be very similar to what I say now. You can get him back for cheap. You can get him back on a short deal, and you can probably get him back starting in the American Hockey League. and going from there. Even with the injury, the injury makes it tougher for other teams to want to sign him. So not that the Penguins won't have a choice, but they're more likely to have obviously first crack at it, but then following up with, we're going to keep you around. We'll probably do the same situation we had you in last year of you're going to start in the A. Once you're healthy and fully recovered enough to speed, probably call them up a lot quicker at least. But I would say, yeah, I could see how it would put a damper on things and maybe make people double take on it, hesitate a bit. But I think for what it's worth, he's a useful cog in this organization on both teams, in the NHL and AHL team. A key piece for a certain style of play that the Penguins just don't have anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Kyle Dubas is willing to go out and find it from someone else, then I could see it being the end. But I'd like to see it continue even after the surgery again. He loses a whole off season. I understand that, but you come back, start in the A, and regrow your game like you did last season, like you did this season. No harm, no foul, in my opinion.
Yeah, we had a longer discussion about Boko Imama when we did our must sign, maybe sign, move on. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. But even with the injury, even with the surgery, yeah, you bring him back. If he's going to miss what? At most, even if he suffers a setback, he misses the first month of the season. This isn't a guy that you need for 82 games. It's a guy that's nice to have whenever you would like to call upon him, because like you mentioned, he brings that aspect of where he's going to actually stand up for guys like Crosby. He's going to stand up for guys like Malkin. And he's also going to stand up for guys like Rutger McGroarty, like Ville Koivunen. If you're bringing up these young guys who at this stage of their career, they're 21 years old, probably not the best idea to have them standing up for themselves and getting into fights. I mean, in McGroarty's case, he can't stop talking about how he got his head bashed in his one fight at the AHL level. But I mean, to have somebody that'll actually stand up for these guys and be able to not only do that, but he's also not incapable in the structure of the game, right? He only had one goal. I understand that, but his play is adequate. Like, take away the fighting, his play is adequate. He's not Matt Rempe. He's better than that. He's good on the forecheck. He does have a decent shot. And guess what? He's not incapable of carrying the puck into the zone or making the right read on the play. So between all of that, plus the fact that it felt like the teammates really liked him. It felt like the locker room really enjoyed Boko Imama. So there's no reason to not bring him back, because that's something that the Penguins organization still needs, especially if you're going to turn to a lot of young players. You need somebody to be able to be on the ice there to watch their back. And I think Boko Imama brings that more than a lot of people that we've seen in this decade of Penguins hockey. So why wouldn't you bring him back for another year, even if it means he's not going to be available to you for the first 3 weeks of the season? But even then, it's unlikely that that's even the case. He could be ready as early as the beginning of training camp. So we'll have to wait and see.
For sure, you have to wait and see. And like I said, even if he is ready at the beginning of training camp, the likely start for the year for him will be at the AHL level anyway.
Yeah.
Right? That's the assumption, at least. I don't think he's going to be one of the guys that cracks the NHL lineup straight out of camp, even if he's fully healthy, because that might be a time to give more youngsters some runway. Who knows what direction the team wants to go in come training camp. We'll see who's on the roster. And maybe we have this discussion again in a couple of months ago. Yeah, no, there's no need for Boko Imama. Look what Kyle Dubas is doing. He's doing this, and this. But for now, he's a useful piece to bring back. And yeah, one goal. I mean, I would like to see a little more offense, especially if he's going to be taking up, a roster spot and playing 5 minutes. Maybe I'd like to see a little more offense in those 5 minutes, or give him more time, whatever it may be. But for what it's worth, one goal could have been 2 or 3. I think he's had a couple of good opportunities. I can remember the game against the Flyers, not too far back, not long after he knocked out Garnet Hathaway with an unfortunate collision. It wasn't anything malicious. He was originally given that 5-minute major, reduced to a 2. And while the Flyers are barking at him the whole time, I think it was moments after he got out of the box, he had a breakaway. He's putting himself into some good opportunities to capitalize. So not only is he bringing the body, bringing that physical presence, he's putting himself in the right opportunities to also provide offense. So it's an interesting case that give him more ice time. Maybe he gets a few more of those opportunities. I'd just like to see it continue at least another year. We'll see what happens with it.
Now let's talk a little bit about some team awards, because the Penguins gave out their team awards yesterday before photo day. And, well, there was one familiar name that was on the ballot, that was on the winners list, and then there was one unfamiliar name. Let's start with the one that you all know and all expected. Sidney Crosby, named the Penguins team MVP. I mean, who else would have gotten it? This is the 5th season in a row for Sidney Crosby winning team MVP. In that time, he has averaged 31 goals and 83 points, and that is including a shortened season in 2020, 21, and he is also, in all 5 of those years, led the Penguins in points. So this is now Sidney Crosby's 13th team MVP, passing Mario Lemieux, who finished his career with 12. Crosby was also named the Players Player Award, which makes, I mean, all the sense in the world. So, Horwat, do you have any thoughts on Sidney Crosby being named team MVP in the most unsurprising turn of events in the history of hockey?
No, it's just not a shock at all. I mean, just by pure numbers, by pure drive on this team, I think it couldn't go to anyone else. This team has been in such a weird place all season long. There was, a slow start, and then there's a brief moment of, oh, maybe they could go for it. And then just downfall after downfall after downfall. NHLers getting sent to the minors, injuries starting to pile up for certain areas. I mean, the Bryan Rust 30-goal season could still happen, but also it's very possible it doesn't. It couldn't be anyone else. I think on most occasions you look at, obviously the numbers speak for themselves. This is his 13th. Who else would it have been?
Mm-hmm.
But in the grand scheme of things, no doubt was it going to be anyone else. Sidney Crosby by numbers, drive, and just leadership. No matter what, he wants to win, and his numbers prove it. Record after record continuing to fall. I mean, what more could be said? Did anyone else expect anything different?
No, I don't think you could even make a case for anybody different in team MVP. And again, I don't think you could make a case for anybody different in the Players Player Award. And that is best exemplified by what we've seen over the past, 5 days? Since Friday, when Rutger, McGroarty, and Ville Koivunen were called up. Who is the one guy that has been by their side? I mean, not only on the ice, down to the fact that he is sitting next to them in the stalls, in the locker room. It's Sidney Crosby. And you look at the way that he's kind of handled the situation. And I don't want to say handled, because everybody expected him to be kind of the guy that's shepherding along these young kids. That's what the plan has been. And that's what Kyle Dubas has said. There's value in keeping not just Crosby, but he also mentioned guys like Kris Letang. He mentioned guys like Evgeni Malkin. There's value in having these guys here to teach that next generation how to go about things, not just how to play on the ice, but just how to be a professional and how to conduct yourself at the NHL level. And Crosby, it's like it immediately turned on. When those kids came up, he was like, cool, this is what I'm here for. Like, obviously, Crosby is still here to put up point per game seasons and be one of the best 10 players in the entire National Hockey League, because that's what he's done. But you look at the fact that Kelsey Surmats of the Hockey News reported he stayed out there for extra time with McGroarty, with Koivunen in their first practice, with even Emil Bemstrom was still out there, and Bryan Rust was out there as well to help shepherd things along. Crosby is exactly who everybody thinks he is, and he continues to show that week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out. He is the guy that is going to kind of spark another generation of Penguins hockey. Like, he might not be here for it, but he is going to be the catalyst for that next generation, because he is going to teach these guys as much as he can impart. Because I think it was, I was listening to 93.7 The Fan last week, and Tyler Kennedy was talking, and he's like, yeah, Sid wants to teach you everything that he's thinking, and he wants you to think the way that he's thinking, and he can do that so much. But eventually you have to just look at him. And I think he said it was Pascal Dupuis who looked at him and said, Sid, I don't think the game as fast as you. So while nobody's ever going to be able to be created in his image to the level and the extent that he is, the fact that he's going to be able to teach these guys about being professionals, about, how he thinks the game, and potentially improve their, everything, because that's what the goal is, I think is huge for the Penguins. And like I said, while he might not be here, he will be the catalyst for the next era of Penguins hockey, and we'll see how well it goes.
Yeah, it's that little story that reminds me of, this is a a meme or a gif from not a long time ago, but a couple years ago now. It's a LeBron James trying to explain to Austin Reeves some sort of play, and Austin Reeves is shaking his head. Yep, got it. And then at the end, he just goes, I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah.
And they start walking away, and it's just like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's LeBron trying to teach. I'm assuming Austin Reeves was a rookie when this happened, because it was a long time ago now.
Well, compared to LeBron, he was obviously a rookie.
Yeah. It was also early in LeBron's Lakers tenure.
Yeah.
To the point where now I think back of that, like Austin Reeves, I don't know anything about basketball. I'm taking a shot in the dark here. He's still on the Lakers. I still hear the name kind of often. I think he's one of the better players on that team now. So even just being around LeBron and maybe not knowing that specific moment in the game, trying to teach the kind of play he's trying to perform or whatever, he's learned. Austin Reeves has learned and has grown into a solid NBA player on that team. Crosby might be able to teach the game in a very similar aspect of, sure, no one thinks the game as fast as him, but these kids might pick up on something, learn over the years, and quickly become a catalyst down the line themselves and become a key piece of the lineup down the line. Just by being around, just by kind of soaking it all in. You may not understand everything that he says right off the jump, but you'll pick it up, you'll learn it, and it's a great way to grow just being around those kind of players.
Yeah, I know we keep pumping his tires, but here's the last thing. There are things that Crosby can't teach because they're just things that come to him naturally. And it's hard to teach everything that you do. But what is the one thing that everybody says about Sidney Crosby that he can teach? Work ethic. Sidney Crosby is one of the hardest workers. One of the guys that goes in basically as a 9-to-5 job here, because he is in there. We've heard stories about he's in there on holidays. He's in there on days where a rink shouldn't even be open, and he's in there working. He can teach that to these young kids. Now, I don't know if anybody's going to have the drive that he had throughout his 20-year career and 20 plus, wherever he ends up going, because there's still no signs of him slowing down, but he can teach the importance of it. And he can show them that, hey, if you want to be great, you put in the work. Yeah, natural ability goes into it a lot. But if you put in the work, you can become a Chris Kunitz, who had a very good career. You could become a Jake Gensel, who's had a very good career. You could become a Pascal Dupuis, who, if not for his health issues, his career would have been comparable, and he would have been a huge part of those cup teams like Chris Kunitz was. You could become a Bryan Rust, right? And again, maybe not the dream when you're growing up. Oh, I just want to be Bryan Rust. No, you want to be Wayne Gretzky. You want to be Mario Lemieux. You want to be Connor McDavid. But once these kids get to this level, I would take perennial 25-plus goal scorer and beloved by a fan base, multi-time Stanley Cup champion. Yeah, I think a lot of people would take that, not to mention all the money that he's making. So I think that Crosby, the team MVP, sure, yeah, obviously. The Players' Player Award is the one that, again, obviously he was going to get it, but you can see just in a small sample size over this past week why he deserves it so much.
You're going to continue to see it for as long as he's here. Even after he hangs up the skates, who knows what he does next. There will still be reason to say he's the player's player, depending on what he does. I mean, even if he's not a player, but it's all deserving. Again, you're right. We can't pump his tires enough, but also, is there anything bad to say about Crosby? Is there anything he cannot do? It's hard it's tough to think of those things. He's a leader. He's a great player. Even at his age, he's still one of the best in the league. It's not showing many signs of slowing down. Sure, the point production isn't what it used to be, but it's still over a point per game, man. And that's the most you can ask for from a 37-year-old.
Well, and part of that might also be environment. You got to think about the fact that he put up 93 points on a team that didn't make the playoffs. He put up 94 points on a team that didn't make the playoffs. And now he's going to put up probably, I mean, there's still 7 games left?
Yep.
You'd have to figure that's probably at least 7 more points. That would be 88 points. So yeah, he dropped 5 points. Okay. On a team that finishes in the top 5 in the draft, likely to still only drop off 5 points at the age of 37. I'm going to say Father Time is still far behind Sidney Crosby. Now, we do have another award that was handed out yesterday, and that was the Unsung Hero Award for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that went to Noel Acciari, named the team's unsung hero. Acciari has 11 points, 5 goals, 6 assists in 75 games this season. He leads the team in hits with 168. He leads the team in blocked shots with 98, and he is the top penalty killing forward when it comes to ice time on the Penguins. Do you think Noel Acciari is the unsung hero of the Penguins?
You want to be honest? I don't know who else it would be. I mean,
You
first
could
of
make
all,
an argument. You could make an argument for a couple players. I would throw Matt Grzelcyk's name into the hat there, the way that he's been able
fair.
to improve as the season's gone on and unlock that Penguins power play. But I understand why Noel Acciari got the Unsung Hero Award. He does do, as Mike Sullivan likes to say, the thankless jobs in hockey, which is block shots, which is hits, which is starting every shift with your heels on the goal line, essentially. But I think when you watch the player, you recognize that we just finished talking about Sidney Crosby and how Father Time just can't seem to find him. Father Time is chilling right on Noel Acciari's shoulder.
Yeah, no doubt. I think I like the option. I like the choice of it just because of all the stats you mentioned, the hits, the blocks. It is the thankless job. He played the entire season. He missed 20 games last year, he missed a little over 20 games last year, with a couple of different injuries, I believe. This time around, he's stayed healthy and has played his role perfectly. He's, like you said, he's leading the team in hits, leading the team in block shots. Do you really want to get deep in the weeds? He's among active Penguins, second in faceoff percentage, behind only Crosby. Lars Eller is still up there, but small sample size. You could throw that one into the equation as well. He's played his role perfectly from top to bottom. He's not expected to be the offensive juggernaut in the depth. No one is in this team. But staying healthy and putting up those numbers that you don't normally look at, like the faceoffs, like the hits, blocks, penalty killing time, it's all of those they're the not sexy numbers that no one really dives too deep into except for hockey nerds like us. So we look at that, and I look at that and go, yeah, you know what? For what it's worth, for this team that didn't have too many other options for unsung hero because this team's not winning a lot, it's not like you have this depth guy who put up 30, 40 points and is coming up in clutch time. No, it's going to go to your fourth line center who's putting up the right numbers at the right time and is staying healthy at his, as staying as healthy as his brittle body can and performing. And also, let's not discount the fact that he played a lot of the season with trade rumors going around again.
Yeah.
So battling through all that, staying healthy and performing to his job, perfect choice for me.
Yeah, it feels like everything we're hearing out of the organization is, hey, stop talking about him being traded because Kyle's not going to trade him. Like, it's what it feels like. Like, if
a little bit,
if the Penguins are trying to turn a corner, I'd still probably look into moving that $2 million and switching up how you utilize that spot in the lineup.
Yeah.
But it feels like, again, this was not handed out specifically to say that. But I think a lot of the things we've heard about the Penguins and what they say about Noel Acciari is, again, to, one, be able to pump the tires of somebody they like, and two, to tell everybody, hey, you got to stop with the trade rumors because he's not going anywhere. He's just not. Now, the big thing is availability. And the fact is that while leading the team in hits, while leading the team in block shots, while seemingly taking pucks and high sticks to the face more than anybody in the entire league, the guy has played in every game. He's one of 3 Penguins to still be eligible for the Tip of the Ice-Burgh Iron Penguin Award at the end of the season. It's him, it's Erik Karlsson, and it's Matt Grzelcyk. That is a class that I don't think I would have ever expected, especially Noel Acciari. Because he's 33, 34 years old, and he takes a beating day in and day out. So you do have to give him credit for that because he puts his body on the line for this team that, as we've said on, I think, 30 occasions in this episode alone, this team doesn't have much to play for. They have not been a playoff team for months, and he continues to play the same style. So it is commendable. And it does make sense why the team is so fond of him. It does make sense why the coaching staff is so fond of him. It does make sense why the organization as a whole is so fond of him. But from a hockey sense, I look at it and I just say the legs have failed him. And once the legs go, there's not much left of a hockey player. We saw it with Jeff Carter. The legs went. What did he have left? He had the shot. Every once in a while, he could unleash that shot. But outside of that, man, it was really hard to find a positive. And I think we're getting there with Noel Acciari. But the difference is his one thing is being a human punching bag. Now, the team appreciates that. But, man, that is really hard to deploy if you're the Penguins. So, again, I don't want this to turn into me calling for his head. But I do want, despite the fact that he does do all these things, and I think it is commendable, I do want to just keep in mind that it's probably better off for the Penguins as far as trying to contend next year if they replace him in the lineup with somebody that can do a little bit more than just get bloodied.
For sure. No doubt. You're right about that. The money can be allocated better. But for the situation that the Penguins were in this season, he played his role, continuing to stay in the lineup, huge, and just exceeding in his role. That's all it was. And the way I see it is this is the role he was given. This is the game plan that was set out for him pretty much whenever he signed going into last season. Injuries piled up last year and hampered quite a bit. But this year, you're accepting of the 5 goals and 11 points with all the other numbers that I said. It's good for Noel Acciari. For what it's worth, if the Penguins around him, and if there was more drive going on around him, maybe we're having a different conversation, but there's still definitely ways that the money can be allocated better. But for now, for this Penguins situation, for this season, liked what he brought. And I do like this choice as the unsung hero. And also, you think this team likes hockey? That's a very hockey pick for your unsung hero for your own team, by the way. Yeah. Just looking around and going, the fourth line guy who's doing all the small things. That's the kind of pick. I don't know who else it could be. Maybe Rickard Rakell for a bounce back year, but that's not really an unsung hero.
I think a lot of people have sung for Rickard Rakell this year.
Exactly. That's a big part of it. You said Grizzly. I like that choice as an unexpected. Well, you did very well, actually. Then they traded everyone else and acquired everyone else mid-season. Not too many players would have been here all year. So I like the choice. I can't even think back to who has gotten in the past to compare to, but it's a good choice in my eyes. I like it a lot, and he's a good dude too, so even better.
Now, here's the thing. You might have swayed me a little bit. Again, I'm not coming off my position entirely, but you might have swayed me a little bit when you reminded me. You said, no, I mean the environment around him. He did have a good about week and a half, 2 week stretch when it was him, Connor Dewar, and Blake Lizotte. So if you just surround him with water bugs who, he doesn't have his legs, but these guys have legs for days, right? They have the lower body and the machine and the stamina to just keep just skating around like gnats. If you surround him with that, he can be the stabilizing force in the middle. I think for short periods of time, that could work. Now over an 82 game season, I'm not banking on that though. So that's the thing. But no, shout out to Noel Acciari, team's unsung hero, deserved of that honor. I will say, I think Matt Grzelcyk deserves a little bit more praise for what he's been able to do this season, how he's transformed his game, how he's become as reliable as anybody else has become alongside Erik Karlsson in Karlsson's time in Pittsburgh. But Acciari, playing 75 games, despite all that he's gone through, the amount of times that he's gone down to the locker room in the middle of the game to get stitches or to get looked at or to get x-rays, and he's still come out and played, and he hasn't missed a single game. 100% commendable. And that's old time hockey there. That's what Noel Acciari is. And I think those who still appreciate Noel Acciari as well.
For sure.
Before we go, quick congratulations and a quick shout out is owed to the Wheeling Nailers. The Penguins ECHL affiliate has officially clinched a spot in the Kelly Cup playoffs. This is the third time in 4 years that the Nailers will have playoff hockey in West Virginia, and they are currently second in the ECHL's North Division with 6 games remaining. So Horwat, at this point, Wheeling's in the playoffs, Wilkes-Barre's in the playoffs. When Kyle Dubas said, hey, we want to at least start from the ground up, and to do that, we have to make sure our affiliates, our minor league teams, are successful, and then hope that can continue to work its way up to the National Hockey League level. Year 2, Wheeling's in, Wilkes-Barre's in, and as we all know, Wilkes-Barre is expected to be one of the better teams once the Calder Cup playoffs begin here in a few weeks.
And that's where the Penguins want their systems to be. That's
Yep.
a great signal, a great sign for what is to come in both organizations down there, and what could eventually, bubble up to the top to the NHL level. As for Wheeling, had a heck of a season last year. I think they had that record-breaking winning streak. Looked like a very good team from top to bottom. It's tough to gauge ECHL stuff, especially whenever in reality, it's tough to gauge both leagues right now because I believe the Florida Everblades have won the last 3 Kelly Cups and the Hershey Bears are on a back-to-back run.
Yeah.
So trying to pick, champions out of those leagues has been slim, but that's still commendable that teams like the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins and the Wheeling Nailers are fighting through a lot to be relevant, and it's going to be great to see how Wheeling can do with another chance at it, another crack at it. I can't remember how far they got last year, but
they won their first round series, and then they lost in the second round, I think.
Yeah, but still, I mean, making it through that season with that winning streak and looking really good, and they were doing it without Sergei Miroshov still. It was with a lot of Taylor Gauthier.
And that's what it is now.
Yeah, it was
Taylor
with
the
a lot
goat.
of him. And I can't remember who was playing down there, skater.
Isaac Beliveau last year.
Yeah, and I think he's gotten the bump to the AHL a couple of times. Who knows how much he has left in him? It's tough to pick out of that roster because it's so far down. But NHL contracts were down there last year.
Yeah, and they also, I think, sent Chase Piatella down there last week because Harrison Bruna came over to the Wilkes-Barre Penguins. And trust me, I'm very excited about Harrison Bruna. He had an assist in his first game, and he almost scored a wraparound goal. I believe it was on his first shift. So there's a lot to watch still in the minors for the Penguins. And if you're a Penguins fan, listen, these prospects are the future. Maybe not as much in the ECHL, but then again, you look at the ECHL, it's where Casey DeSmith came from. That's where, for those who know, for the initiated, Arturs Urbe was an ECHL goaltender, ended up coming up and playing NHL ice time. So, you never know. Sometimes there's Cinderella stories from the ECHL, and maybe somebody down there now will become a part of the Penguins lineup in the future. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. Remember, you can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe if you enjoy our content, or if you prefer, you can always find us anywhere you get your podcast from. We'll see you guys next time.